Welcome back, guys. This is Ted with Forward the Line. Thank you all so much for watching. And to those of you who took a look at the videos up on the channel, I appreciate you as well. Please check us out over on X at Forward the Line and our website, forwardtheline.co. And give us a like, give us a follow, and comment below if you like what I have to say or you don't. We'd love to hear from you either way. And let's get into this today. We are going to be going over Trump's tariffs, the testing of people's principles in terms of deportations, from the MS-13 gangs to the political protesters for Gaza. And also going to take a quick peek into what is happening with privacy and social media. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into this. From NBC News, what Trump and his administration have said about the tariffs policy currently roiling global markets. President Donald Trump has proposed sweeping tariffs targeting U.S. trading partners, including a 10% across the board baseline tariff that went into effect Saturday. In response, investors have initiated a massive stock sell off among fears that the scale of what Trump has proposed threatens to remake the world economic order and weaken overall global output, including growth in the United States. All right, so I'm gonna just go ahead and jump into this because I love this. I am so happy we are going after the World Economic Order because over the last, I don't know, let's say 5 years or so, we have seen maybe 6 years, the full transparency of what has been going on for the last few decades just showed up in everybody's faces during COVID. COVID was the largest wealth transfer in modern history. Money moved from the lower class or excuse me, from the middle class all the way up to the rich ones. Zuckerberg, Bezos, the only people that could operate properly and make full and total profits were large, massive corporations. Walmart, Best Buy, Facebook, Twitter, all of them. They all made money while your local mom and pop store had to shut down um, on over a penalty imposed by tyrannical governments across the country. California was literally arresting people. New York was threatening a woman who was selling her products online through her store. I believe it was New York. Look this up. She had a store and she was selling products through an online marketplace, but as her store. And they told her to stop selling online because she couldn't have her store open. Makes no sense to me. I don't remember the details of the story, but please look it up. I think it was New York. It was a young woman. Anyways, I digress. So I think that what Trump is doing will not only remake the world economic order, it'll bring manufacturing home to America, which we do need. But at the same time, it is going to cause a massive hurt on us economically for the short term. I do believe the long term will work out. So, what I think is going on is pretty simple. So, Trump wants manufacturing to come home, right? Trump also wants let's say he wants the middle class to return, at least he says he wants the middle class to return back to prominence and cities to rebuild and all that good stuff. Okay, well, Wall Street has for years pretty much determined who wins and who loses, right? From investment firms, private equity firms, those type of things. They determine who is a winner and who is a loser. And manufacturing since the 90s has been outsourced across the country for cheap, or excuse me, across the world for cheap slave labor. That's why we have this massive influx of cheap products where they saturate the market so much so that small businesses cannot operate because they cannot compete. You can't compete with Alibaba. You can't compete with Shine, the clothing manufacturer. You can't compete with what's that other one? Timo, cheap slave-made products, right? And what's funny is the left, myself included, being a part of that movement during the Obama years, rallied against the fact that slaves were being used to make these products and ship them overseas. I mean, it was a known talking point of the left that large international corporations were abusing were abusing human were causing human suffering through purchasing products from other countries in which the governments were tyrannical, i.e., China, Taiwan, etc. Now, Taiwan, I don't know if it's as bad. I think they definitely have sweatshops, but I don't know if it's as bad as China. Same with Vietnam. I don't know. I should probably know, but I don't. So that's okay. You know what? The point is that us bringing that home is good for America all the way around. Now, here's the short-term hiccup. So, if you haven't noticed, the stock market has taken a dip over the last couple weeks, and it's really scaring the crap out of people, especially older people, retired folks that are living off a 401k, or they're living off a thrift savings plan, or any other investment type um, fund that they have had, where those funds obviously have a lot of money tied up in the stock market. So anytime the stock market crashes, it causes a problem. So during COVID, during 2008, these were all forms of bubble bursts, right? So it's our fault. It's their fault. I say our because it's people. Let's take 2008 for example. People were being given loans by the banks that they knew they couldn't repay. And then the banks just okayed it because they were given the green light from those who sit up top the ivory tower. Um, but at the same time, the people taking the loans, they knew they probably couldn't afford it, but they did it anyways, and we did it on such a mass scale that eventually the housing bubble burst and you got 2008. COVID, we didn't know China was going to release a deadly virus or so-called deadly virus at the time to the world, and we didn't know that we'd have to shut down everything. Now, I think our response to COVID was very poor. I think we did a lot of things that were too hasty. We used data that wasn't reliable. We forced vaccines upon a world. I won't even say a nation, a world where we have no idea what the long-term repercussions of that are. And we have already seen issues arise in people who have gotten multiple boosters on top of their original shots. So that was handled, all of it was handled poorly. So those bubbles financially were kind of they were man sowed the seeds, but the bubble bursting was not necessarily their fault. In this instance, this is Trump specifically doing this. He is forcing this. And here's what I think is happening. And I'm actually kind of coming up with this idea from multiple different angles. I've read some things on X, I read some Reddit threads, and it's a very and of course read some articles too, tried to back it up with as much factual information as I can. And it's a very interesting concept, and it has to do with our debt. So I believe the figure is 8 trillion. I believe 8 trillion in owned debt, and we have some outrageous, of course, financing payment on the debt in order to keep it down. I should know that number, but I don't. But the maturity of that debt is supposed to come due in 2025. And if you didn't know, it is 2025. So what I think Trump wants to do is there's kind of a theory that a 20%-ish stock dip in the stock market will push investors. And I think we've seen things like this before, of course, and it's almost like a natural reaction for a lot of investors. They don't want to lose a lot of money, right? So they think, okay, well, where can I go with my money to not lose more? I don't know when the market's going to rebound. Maybe they're really shady individuals and they have their money tied up in maybe things they shouldn't have, and they're kind of riding the line already. So if the stock market dips too low, they lose everything. So they pull their money out and they go, okay, where can I go to store it temporarily? Well, you go to government bonds because the United States government, despite all its flaws, despite all of our issues economically, we are still one of the most reliable bonds on the planet. So they give their money to the bond at a hope and buy American bonds, hopefully at a low interest rate. Well, if you notice, Trump was actually fairly upset that the Fed didn't cut the interest rates for this month, but there's speculation, and a lot of investors are banking on the rates being cut come May. So I think what's happening is if Trump can keep the stock market lower, not crash it, but lower, within that 10 to 20% range of a dip, two things. One, people pull their money out, they go buy bonds, or they wait till May and they go buy bonds, and that money pours into the United States government, and then the government can refinance their loan. Hey! and refinance the loan so we're not up shit's creek in 2025. And we can kind of nudge that off to the side while Doge continues to come in and just pound the crap out of corruption and all that good stuff, waste, all that good shit. Which by the way, let me pause on the one part and go into the government waste and all that stuff. So I heard an argument online, and he's from a very intelligent guy, and I won't mention who it is, but he's a very intelligent guy, and he made a point, saying basically that there was no evidence that they were going after fraud and corruption, in like Doge wasn't going after fraud and corruption because there was no, they only said they were, so people were just believing and taking them at their word, which is fair because although you would like to hope people act on the most positive and the most good and act the most altruistic, they aren't always that case because man is flawed by default. We are all sinful. I'm not religious myself, but obviously we're all sinful. We have the capacity for good, but humans get greedy. Um, so you don't want to take them at their word at face. You want to look into it a little bit further. So then I say to that, okay, well, let's look at the few things without diving deep because I don't have all the stats next to me. And but let's look at the condoms, right? The condoms to what was it? Gaza, Mozambique. People thought it was like literally Gaza. It was actually in Mozambique in Africa. So it was definitely different. But the question is, okay, so if we're sending condoms over there, you know for a fact that the United States government is not actually purchasing condoms themselves. And I need to verify this. You might be able to do it for me if you'd like, but I'm pretty sure we just gave money to an NGO, which then used that money to purchase condoms or whatever and sent them to another country. I think here's where the speculation comes in, and it's kind of an obvious speculation because it doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum. You can venture to imagine whether it be an NGO or a nonprofit that receives the money. You and I have all heard of massive corruption within organizations like that. You've heard of massive corruption in churches. Happens all the time. People steal money. Pastors steal money. People running it steal money. That happens there. It happens in NGOs. Happens in nonprofits. So to think that all that money for condoms and other prophylactics and is that the right word? Prophylactics? Yeah, I think so, and all that other whatever the hell we sent there. Realistically, all that money didn't go there. Some of it went to administrative costs. And as far as I know, once it leaves the government's hands, maybe they have a little bit of tracking, a little bit of an idea of where that money's actually going. But in reality, they don't fucking know at all where it's going. No one knows where it's going except for the people running the organization. And then that jumps back to the, oh, well, don't trust Doge because they're telling you they're doing the right thing. Why trust an NGO that's spending money overseas that Americans do not see at all and blindly trust them and say, oh, yeah, they're really just doing good overseas? So, no, I don't want my money to go to that. Not only that, but how much that money is being used to topple governments because the CIA gets involved all the time with that. And those black budgets, they are not shown. And you also know that some of that foreign aid that goes through USAID and other organizations definitely doesn't go to what they're saying. And it could be going to covert military operations. Maybe not direct military operations, but covert operations that involve intelligence and that involve, overthrowing Gaddafi and that type of thing where we've done for decades now because we don't like what they're doing because it doesn't fit within the national interest of the United States of America. So we do shady stuff like that all the time. So if the people don't know where the money's going, right? And actually another point was made. This was from the Timcast Cultural War show, and a gentleman on there, I didn't get his name, made an excellent point. If the CIA or the intelligence agencies went to the American people and said, obviously, we can't tell you what we're going to do, right? It's a covert operation, it's top secret, blah, blah, blah. But some of this money that was allocated for USAID or whatever was actually going to do something for us. We can't tell you what it is, but we're going to do something for you. So at least the American people have an idea that the money that was originally intended, or they were told it was going to place A, and it's really going to place Z. At least we know it's going to place Z, right? So, but that's never going to happen, and that's not realistic. So, yeah, fuck it. I want all of it gone. I don't care. We have enough problems in this country that we could solve. We are massively in debt and we spend way too much money already. I don't give a fuck about people in Mozambique. I am sorry. I am a compassionate individual to the people around me, and I feel for people overseas. I feel for the Uyghur Muslims in China. I feel for the slaves in India, the slaves in Africa. By the way, the slaves in this and the human trafficking in this world today is worse than it's ever been. But again, I digress. So fuck it. All that money, keep it. All right, Doge, going back. Let's track back. Trump and Doge does the cuts after stock market crashes. They go take it in, not crashes, but stock market dips. They go into the bonds, they buy it up, they refinance the debt. Doge comes in, keeps cutting, and what happens from there? I do not remember, but the problem is that the pain is real from that. That's a huge problem because people's 401ks are hurting and they're scared. And I respect the fact that you're scared because the last time something like this happened, we had 2008. Then we had COVID. It's always been bad, stupid things that have led us to this point, right? Where we're at right now is usually a scary time because something's going wrong. But remember, you may not like him. You may think he's a dictator. All you need to know is that this is intentional. And why? I ask you this one question: if you suffer from TDS, right? Um, and I'll do a little commercial for you. If you suffer from Trump derangement syndrome, ask your doctor about common sense today. y- y- just think about this. Why would any president of the United States intentionally fuck up their poll numbers, right? Why would they intentionally want to destroy the economy? One thing is to do a controlled burn, a temporary controlled burn to to restructure the government. Presidents do that all the time. But the media wants to tell you, if you do have TDS, that he is a dictator Hitler and he wants to totally remake and totally crash the economy so all of the regular people become poor and destitute and all the rich people become richer and whatever. You do realize that most of the rich people, politicians that are filthy rich and other business people on both sides of the aisles, don't really like what Trump's doing. Like you have the neocon right that can't stand the tariffs because they're losing money hand over fist. You have the left because it's Trump. They don't like that he's doing the tariffs. Not a lot of people like that he's doing this. So you may think, okay, well, that's fine, but he's just a bad man and he wants to destroy everything and still make the rich powerful. Okay, fine, whatever. I get it. The tax, the tax cuts, they say they do go to the they do go to the wealthy because if you look up the statistics, the people who make the most money pay the most taxes. But the fact is that even though people who are in the middle and upper middle class pay a much smaller portion of the actual revenue from taxes, it affects them more directly on a smaller level so they can feel it more than a rich person would. And I can understand that sentiment. I pay taxes too. I hate paying taxes. I think tax is theft, to be honest with you. And if we had more control over where our taxes go, I might feel a little bit better about it. But in general, I don't like it. Though I do understand that it's necessary and it's good for some things. You know what? I take that back. I'm conflicted on it. Tax is theft, if unless it's used and distributed properly, and the public is fully and massively aware of it, transparently aware of it. I think that's my caveat. Man, I'm all over the place tonight. All right, um, so then you had the um Trump restructuring. Man, I'm all over the place. Oh, yes. The people suffering right now. Just hang in there. It's fine. It'll be fine. Trump has no reason to destroy, whether you like him or not. Again, he has no reason to completely destroy the economy, mainly because he wants his policies continued. He thinks what he's doing will be good for the country in the long run. He knows what he's doing won't be able to take full effect in 4 years. On top of that, if he's not careful, in 2 years, he's going to lose the power of Congress and he can't do anything else at that point. At that point, he is basically a lame duck at that point. or he goes neocon and goes with the, all those shady, Mitch McConnell types, Lindsey Graham types, and cuts deals back and forth that always end up hurting us. Because again, remember, it's not about RD. It's like these elite people that want it their way. They want America to be BK, and they want to have it their way, right? They don't care about us. They want it their way, and they want to make their money, and they want to do all that crap. And then they're going to come and they're going to campaign in your town, and they're going to tell you, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. When's the last time a presidential candidate went out and told you something on a campaign trail, whether you like him or not? When's the last time he went out there and spoke verbatim what he was going to do and then does exactly what he said he was going to do? I don't think that's ever happened in my lifetime. I mean, Obama said a lot of shit and didn't do half the shit he was talking about. I think the only thing he followed through on was Medicare reform, and that didn't frickin' work out very well, did it? We're still up shit's creek with medical reform, Medicare reform, with you know, medical insurance and all that shit. That's a whole nother conversation we'll get into. But so anyway, so Trump doesn't want to do that. Get it out of your mind. He doesn't want to purposely destroy it. He just wants to change things and do what he thinks is better for America. You may disagree, but that's what he wants to do. Um, so all right, so I think we beat that horse nice and dead. So let's move on to this next story here. This is from AP News, and from colleges around the U.S. say some international students' visas are being revoked. Colleges around the country are reporting some of their international students' visas are being revoked unexpectedly, expressing alarm over what appears to be a new level of government scrutiny. Visas have been canceled for a number of reasons, but college leaders say the government has been quietly terminating students' legal residency status with little notice to students or schools. It marks a shift from past practice and leaves students vulnerable to detention and deportation. Okay, so I think what they're going into here is in relation to the Mahmoud guy. Yeah, Mahmoud Khalil, green card holder. He was the leader of some protests that happened at Columbia School. Columbia, if I'm not mistaken, is the one that got their building taken over. Not 100% on that, but I think that was it. Um, Fact check me. I should have that, but in the moment, sometimes I can't remember. So I actually, I'm actually on the, I'm on the fence about this one. The illegal immigrants that are related to, or that are a part of MS-13 and Venezuelan gangs and all that stuff. That's a little different. I'll get into that in a minute. But when it comes to this one, it is free speech for these individuals, right? They didn't directly, as far as we know, publicly available information. They did not plan any violent attacks. They planned protests. They were a part of protests, and that is legal in the United States of America. Whether you're a citizen or not, it is legal to do so. I think it's maybe a little bit different in a certain sense, but generally it's to protect the law is to prohibit the government from going after your rights, right? So that's what it is. So yeah, in general whole, yes, it's free speech for everybody, honestly, and that's the way it should be. It should be free speech for everybody. But so so there is no proof that he actually planned or engaged in the violent uprisings that were on the campuses and threatened and harassed other individuals, Jewish individuals on campus and did anti-Semitic things. And I believe pretty much all of the other people that were deported or in process of being deported. The only one that's not being deported, I think, at this point, was a woman. Oh, something other. I don't have her name, but there's one that the judge went ahead and put a stop on. So the this is an overreach. And I'll give an example for the right so that you kind of understand where I'm coming from here. Because you may not like, first of all, I don't like Hamas, right? I don't think Hamas are good people. I think even some of the Palestinian people are just as radical as Hamas, but there is blood on the hands of both groups, for sure. I support Israel's right to exist, for sure, hands down. They have their right to be there, but there has been really shitty stuff done on both sides of this conflict, and it's been happening for God knows how long. Um, But when it comes to these individuals, they didn't actually commit, or at least publicly available, they have not committed a crime. Neither did Enrique Tarrio. And you may disagree with me there. He was the leader of the Proud Boys that was thrown in jail for what, like 20 some odd years, on some specious charge. And he was not even at January 6th. He wasn't in DC at all. Um, but they arrested him because he was the leader. And that's my comparison, right? If you disagree with the fact Enrique Tarrio was arrested and thrown in jail, then in theory, you shouldn't be upset, or you should be upset that these people have been locked up and put in jail, right? There was no proof he was there. There was no proof that he organized the violence that happened at January 6th. He might have organized the protest, but that's legal. You can legally do that, and they used him as kind of taking the head of the serpent, chopping it off, and shoving it on a stake to show everybody how scared they should be to protest against the Biden administration and do things like have a militia, which is legal under the Constitution. They wanted to make people feel like if they created a militia that they would be hunted down, or if they had a group that might have been, maybe a little, maybe a little extreme, but not necessarily radical, and violent, they want to dissuade you from doing that. So it's the same thing here. It's just on the flip side. And also, there's some stories out there, some people, some buzz about a lot of the money that went to the Trump campaign was from people who were involved with AIPAC and people who were involved with Israel. And some big money was filtered in to his campaign. And now this is his kind of retribution on behalf of them for them being now, before I continue with that, and before you get upset, there was some really nasty stuff done, right? There were Jewish people on that campus that were genuinely afraid for their lives because these people were getting in people's faces. They were threatening the whole, first of all, and this bugs the crap out of me because the left pretends like it's no big deal. From the river to the sea literally means the removal of Israel off the state of the map, which is a call for violence, a call for destruction. That's the point of that statement. And you can argue that it's just a statement made. Well, under that premise, you could say from, I don't know, from New Mexico to the Pacific, or no, you know what? I take this back. From Nevada to the Pacific, California will be free, right? That doesn't work. From Nevada to the Pacific, um, I don't know, New Mexico will be it doesn't quite work the same, but the point is that you remove the people there. You remove them and you take over that space. So that either means torture, capture, kill, remove them. All right. So it's a genuinely hateful statement to begin with. And yeah, I understand why it makes people uncomfortable. I think this is too far because if you're going to make arrests like this and deport people, the public should be aware. Like, okay, did they really plan the violence? How much control did they have over the protests? I mean, like it says, Mahmoud Khalil was the leader, a green card holder who was the leader of the protests at Columbia. Did he know this was going to happen? Do you have proof of it before you deport him? Blah, blah, blah. Now, in the case of some of those women that just had visas, and also in this story where they're talking about students across the country who had visas, um, it is legal to do that. It's not legal to remove it based off of free speech. But like Rubio said, he said that I should get the video up, but he said basically, if you let me try and find it. You know what? Let me just go ahead and try and find it here. If you lie on your visa application and say that you're here for for education, but you spend your time organizing violent, and I think that's where he got it a little bit wrong. He said if you're organizing protests on behalf of Hamas, not behalf of Hamas, but like in benefit of Hamas or supporting Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, um, which it is. I get it, but that's kind of borderline. It really is. It's kind of borderline. And if it was directly Okay, you know what? At the end of the day, the F1 visas are given by the United States. The United States has full authority to revoke a visa. You are here temporarily. I'm sorry, right? Now, if go to school and you do what, you're here, you're trying to become a citizen, you're trying to learn, you're not all up in a bunch of social and cultural issues, you're probably going to be left alone, right? If you're here to do what you put on your application to do, you're going to be left alone. That doesn't mean you should be deported and revoked, but they have power to do so. So yeah, I guess I'm kind of on the fence here, to be honest with you. And I'm not even gonna look for the video because I'm just freaking rambling. It's gonna eat up too much time. Um, so I'm iffy here. I'm iffy, and maybe you guys can convince me one way or the other. But put down in the comments if you sit on either side of those fence a little bit more. And tell me why. Tell me why you think that it's completely justified that these people are arrested and deported without any actual violent actions. And if there is violent rhetoric that was spoken or threats, threats, calls to action to do violent attacks. If that was the case, please tell me. And I just haven't seen it yet. But as far as I could find out, there's no publicly available explanation beyond what Rubio said the other day. And you know what? I am gonna find it. Um, I am going to find it. Revocation of visa. It's not really speech, but whatever. Let me see if I can find this here, guys. I'm so sorry. This is eating up so much time, but this is a podcast, so what it do? Ba 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 ba. Let's see, is this it?
Everything's better when it's free, including filing
Of course it's an ad.
your taxes.
I wonder if you
Then
guys can
you
hear that.
actually qualify.
Mr.
Here we go.
Secretary, a Turkish student in Boston was detained and handcuffed on the street by plainclothes agents. A year ago, she wrote an opinion piece about the Gaza war. Could you help us understand what the specific action she took led to her visa being revoked?
Yeah.
And what was your State Department's role in that process?
We revoked her visa. It's an F1 visa, I believe. We revoked it, and here's why. And I'll say it again. I said it everywhere. Let me be abundantly clear, okay? If you go apply for a visa right now, anywhere in the world, let me just send this message out. If you apply for a visa to enter the United States and be a student, and you tell us that the reason why you're coming to the United States is not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing students, taking over buildings, creating a ruckus, we're not going to give you a visa. If you lie to us and get a visa and then enter the United States and with that visa participate in that sort of activity, we're going to take away your visa. And once you've lost your visa, you're no longer legally in the United States, and we have a right, like every country in the world has a right, to remove you from our country. So it's just that simple. I think it's crazy. I think it's stupid for any country in the world to welcome people into their country that are going to go to your universities as visitors. They're visitors. And say, I'm going to your universities to start a riot. I'm going to your universities to take over a library and harass people. I don't care what movement you're involved in. Why would any country in the world allow people to come and disrupt? Now, we gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses. We do it every day. Every time I find one of these lunatics, I take away their visa.
You're saying it could be more than 300
Sure,
visas?
I hope.
Okay. That's ironic. I swear I'd never seen the video all the way through. I swear on my life. Because he basically said what I was trying to say. But yeah, I mean it is an understandable position, but freedom of speech should be taken to a higher standard, right? And again, it's kind of like, okay, the Mahmoud guy, and this is the last I'll say on it because I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm gonna repeat myself. The Mahmoud situation, a green card holder, is a lot closer to the Enrique Tarrio situation, while what he's describing right now is just people on actual visas, and that is borderline. So, anyways, I mean, you got, like I said, oh, sorry, guys. You guys let me know where I'm wrong, what I'm wrong about, and if you hold a position one way or the other. I'd love to hear it from you. So let's move on to this last story here. This is, and I'm gonna wrap this up quickly. This is from the AP as well. Chief Justice Roberts pauses deadline for return of Maryland man mistakenly deported to El Salvador. I hate the headlines they use for this because they don't explain who this guy really is. Um, but anyways, John Roberts agreed Monday to pause a midnight deadline for the Trump administration to return a Maryland man mistakenly deported to a notorious prison in El Salvador. The temporary order comes hours after the Justice Department emergency appeal to the Supreme Court, arguing that Paula Zinnes, the U.S. District Judge, overstepped her authority when she ordered Kilmar Abrego Garcia returned to the United States. The administration conceded that Garcia should not have been sent to El Salvador because an immigration judge found he likely would face persecution by local gangs. He is no longer in U.S. custody, and the government has no way to get him back. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Um, well, first of all, this guy, there was evidence that this gentleman was involved in MS-13. And not only was there, testimony, I believe it was testimony, there was at least some form of information given to the prosecutors when he was arrested, I believe, back in 2018 or 2019. And the judge in that case ruled or put in the notes, in the details, in the ruling that there was sufficient evidence to believe that he was a part of MS-13. And where the media fails to tell you what's exactly going on is when they say like what I read, where it's a Maryland man, making it sound like it's just some guy with a family with like it's some goofy guy who happens to be Hispanic, who's just a dad drinking beer like Homer Simpson, and all of a sudden ICE breaks in the front door and arrests him and drags him out like a rag doll. That's the way they make it sound, but in reality this guy had already been convicted of a crime. The only reason why he shouldn't have been deported was because there was a protective order on him, basically saying that he couldn't be deported because MS-13 was going to kill him when he goes back to Venezuela. I believe it was Venezuela. Um, so really, he would have been deported anyways, but his life was in jeopardy. So the judge saw it fit, out of America's need to be as kind as we possibly can, to say, yeah, you committed a crime, but we're going to go ahead and hold you here and not deport you so you don't die. Um, so him getting deported to El Salvador is an administrative error that they said because they didn't, I guess they had the information that the judge put him on a protective order, but they overlooked it or whatever. And whoever made that call, now whether it was somebody, in ICE, like Homan, I don't know if Homan made that call or not, but it was the Justice Department, so it wouldn't have been Homan. Whoever did the investigation and found these people that needed to be deported should be fired or reprimanded at the bare minimum because they obviously didn't give enough information to show that this guy had a protective order. Because if they had, then none of this would be a news story, right? We could have found another way to, you could have put him in jail, held him, whatever, held him in deportation instead of shipping him with the 250 other people on that plane. And it wouldn't have even been a news story if there wasn't some little administrative error that allowed the media to take it for a spin and make it sound like we're just deporting random good old, beer belly dads. So it's unfortunate, but I think this is the right move from Roberts, and they're not saying that it's necessarily like they didn't rule on the fact, or maybe they have since this article, but in this instance, they're just saying, okay, no deadline. Obviously, you can't bring him back. They can't, right? Because they're in the custody of El Salvador now. Like we gave them to the deal was is that we give you these, um, gang members and gang leaders, and you hold them in your prison, and they're in your custody. And we made some sort of financial agreement to help pay for them, help pay for their stay. So once we give it to them, they're outside of our custody. We can request that they're returned. But to put a deadline of midnight, and I think this article came out today, for a judge to go, yeah, you have to get them back by midnight, when they damn well know that the process to get somebody back, first of all, it's only been a couple weeks, but to get somebody back out of another state's custody to extradite them from another country takes a long time. Like you can't do it overnight. You never could. I mean, it baffles my mind. I mean, how long was who was it? Oh man, I should know this. Oh, I should know this. There was a guy that was in the custody of oh God. You know what? Never mind. I'll move on. Um so anyways, I'm losing the plot here, but I, I think I think Roberts did the right thing in cutting that off. And in this instance, I mean, this guy, he was already convicted of a crime. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It sucks. I know you have a family here now. You know, you committed a crime, you're illegal, you're a gang member, you're at least affiliated with a gang member. After all that's happened, you know, the MS-13 gangs took over a whole goddamn building in the middle of Colorado, right? They've killed, brutally killed, many people across the country, illegal immigrants and illegal people, you know, with ties to gang members. That was one of the number one things that Trump ran on and won on was removing the criminals, illegal immigrant criminals out of our country. And that's what he's doing. So just let it happen. I'll fight in the instance of Mahmoud Khalil, even though I think he is an Enrique Tarrio situation, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt unless they can prove that they were involved. That I would argue about. I would fight about. This, I wouldn't argue about this at all. See ya. Get the hell out, dude. You're illegal and you committed a crime. And if you're here illegally, you know, I've got some conflicting things on that as well. I mean, if you're here and you're trying to become a green card holder, or I mean, well, if you're legal, I don't even know if you can go through that process, but there are good people here that came over illegally that are trying to build a family and build a new life for themselves. And you know, although birthright citizenship is being held up in the courts, that's probably going to get denied. To be honest with you, and it'll probably be upheld as law. That that is a uh, that is allowed based on the courts. I think Roberts is going to swing it in the other direction. To be honest with you, when it gets there, but um, neither here nor there. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there, guys. I think you guys get my drift. I'm rambling a little bit. I hope you stuck around this far. If you did, thank you. Please check us out on X at Forward the Line and our website forwardtheline.co. By the way, we have a free shirt giveaway coming out soon. If you follow us on Rumble X or Rumble X, Facebook, YouTube, you get a point for each action. You can check out and you're entered for sweepstakes drawing for a free shirt. We're giving 5 away. So if you do that, follow the instructions on the website. You can see a little link there. It says t-shirt giveaway. Follow the instructions. Send us what you need. Send us your information, and you'll be put in the drawing. All that good stuff. Man, I'm all over the place tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. Like, follow, share, comment. Be happy, be healthy, stay motivated, or get educated, stay motivated. Forward the line.